Good morning and welcome to 755 Live, about 5 minutes of what Jesus said. We are live from Ironworks Coffee here in downtown Weatherford. We have a prayer time here Tuesday through Friday from 6:30 until about 8 a.m. And it's very informal. Anyone's welcome. Appreciate those that participate both online and here in person. These Jesus Said segments are about 5 minutes talking about a command of Jesus, and we put those commands in soundbite form just so they're easier to remember. You can find those at our weekday Bible plan at bible.today.church. And if this is meaningful to you, it really helps if you like it, if you share it. It's just an encouragement to others, and also helps us get out there in the social media algorithms and just promote the word of Jesus, which is what we're trying to do. Good morning, Sarah. Appreciate you checking in today. Today's Jesus Said, the soundbite version of a command, is stick with me. Jesus actually said, remain in me, but just putting that in some language that is more familiar to us. Stick with me, Jesus said. This comes from John 15, verse 4. But I want to read verses 1 through 8 to kind of set the context here. John 15, verse 1. I am the true grapevine. This is Jesus talking. And my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit. And he prunes the branches that do bear fruit so that they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Verse 4 is where the Jesus Said comes from. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Verse 5, yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. I want to read that again. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. The context here, Jesus is talking after what we call the Last Supper, some of the last teaching that Jesus gave before his crucifixion. And Jesus is clearly stating here that he alone is the vine, that he is the source for those who believe in him, and that we're to remain in him. Stick with me, Jesus said. So we're attached to him, the vine, by faith, but it's also for a purpose, to bear fruit. We can't be attached to him without bearing fruit. And we can't bear fruit if we're not attached to him. And what if we don't bear fruit? Well, it's very clear. The Father cuts us off. Did you get that? Bearing fruit isn't optional. It's a direct result of being connected with Jesus. No fruit, no connection. Jesus said, stick with me and you will bear much fruit. So what does that mean? What does that look like to be connected to Jesus? Well, if you've ever grabbed hold of an extension cord that had a wire exposed and you didn't know it, you felt the power of 120 volts of electricity. I've never seen anyone come in contact with 120 volts without having an immediate and noticeable reaction. And can you just for a minute imagine that we are connected to Jesus, the true vine, connected to the very power that created the universe? How can we be plugged into that kind of power and there be no change? Somehow we have this crazy idea that we can be connected to Jesus and not bear fruit. But he said, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you will produce much fruit. and you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. What does that fruit look like? It looks like Jesus' very words. When we obey what he said, Jesus produces the fruit in our lives. And if there's not fruit, then the Father cuts us off. Jesus said, "Stick with me, and you'll bear much fruit." How can we put that into action today?